What's happening, Awesemo football fans? You're just watching the baseball show. You've probably gotten sick of me already, but you got me again. A little surprise duty hosting the lineup builder show here for NFL. I am fortunately joined by Alex Baker because I've not thrown myself fully into this NFL slate for the week yet. I'm a little bit behind the curve, but we're going to jump in, pick Alex's brain on building some lineups for this week. And we're going to take a look through all of the different variables across the two main sites. We're going to build a cash lineup, a couple tournament lineups here. But first, Alex, how you doing?
Oh my gosh, Terry, I thought you were the one prepared for this slate. I'm not prepared either. This could be a problem.
Well, hey, then we're going to find out exactly what the people out there in the public are going to build as they're just sitting on the train home from work or whatever it is. We'll get some very public looking lineups.
Yeah, this will be a good one. Like I've been looking at the ownership and everything, and man, Derrick Henry, like it seems like sometimes he just gets on a roll and then everyone plays him. And the matchup this week versus Jacksonville is like really good. So I'm like, this is gonna be what kills my week, like for the 15th time.
Yeah, I think we've all been down this road with Derrick Henry before. And I mean, just you see a guy with that much talent and getting the uptick in the passing game and everything over the last few weeks and everything. It's just, there's so much excitement about him. But yeah, this is so teed up for him to burn 30-40% of the field this weekend that it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I feel like that's going to be a big make or break spot. Something that I love though is that, like I mentioned, I haven't really flung myself into this slate yet, but I can jump on and talk to you about this stuff because I'm just pulling up our tools. So like I pulled up our top stacks tool. I've got our ownership up here. I've got our boom bust tool for NFL up. And I feel like just going through that, you get such a good handle on the slate with these different tools. And it gives you a nice overview of where's the ownership headed? Where's the probability headed in terms of who's going to be the most likely team? And the way I like to build is typically by just using the stacks tool. Stacks to me informs who my quarterback is going to be, which informs who half my skill players are going to be. And as we're building, well-constructed lineups, and we'll get into that when we're putting together a stack of a correlated receiver with his quarterback, maybe a run back from the other team, it's so much of it is just right here in these tools that you've built. So it's a home run for anybody who's not out there, not subscribed to the site. I really encourage you guys, just jump on one of the inexpensive plans that we've got. We've got promos going for all kinds of different things. We've got a promo going right now for NFL. Well, that's the strategy show, but I'll give it to you anyway. I'm on the wrong thing on our marketing plan here. I'm trying to jump in, do the right reads, but NFL strategy show at a certain point during the day is going to have a promo for you, 25% off. So look forward to that. Jump in. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe. We're brought to you by Jock Market. We'll talk a little bit about them in a little bit, but let's get into building a lineup here, Alex. What do you think? We going cash lineup first?
Yeah, let's do a DK cash.
Love it.
So I think one way to kind of hedge this week is maybe play Henry and cash. I think it'll be super popular, and then maybe fade him in GPP. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, cash, like whether or not you fade him in GPPs or you undercut the field on him in GPPs, he's your first click in a cash lineup this week, right? I mean, I can't see anybody else with the field, even if you're just doing it to block part of the field. I think it makes sense, but I think there's just that major upside. The points per dollar is there. So yeah, for me, that's the first click in cash. I just made it there. So what are we, do we go back and forth with this? Or are you just making all the picks?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's alternate here.
All right, let me take a look. I'm going to jump back. So when I'm building for cash, I think, a lot of it is just kind of taking a look down the ownership column there. And then what I like to do is take a look at our optimal lineup rate on the boom bust tool for a lot of these guys. So if I'm just sorting by that, we get, let's see. I want to look to receivers. I think with my next click here, I mean, we've got a couple of running backs that have a very high optimal rate that are getting a decent amount of attention in Leonard Fournette, James Robinson. We could go with another running back. Both those guys, inexpensive plays, so they make sense for cash. I think I might want to spend some of our money here and just grab another premium player, though. And I kind of want to go to a highly owned, highly optimal Devontae Adams here. And now we're just taking 2 star players off the top, and we can find some value plays as we go. What do you think of that?
Perfect. I mean, we got a ton of value plays on the big board, so that shouldn't be a problem at all.
Excellent. All right. So 2 stars, 2 very, very chalky plays locked into our cash lineup. I like the foot we've set out on. Do you like to find a quarterback at this point when you're building your cash lineups, or do you leave quarterback for later? How do you normally approach this kind of a build?
I usually leave quarterback for later because from a points per dollar standpoint, there's a lot of good options. And the big board kind of helps you compare all these. So I'm kind of looking through the highest quarterback is only rated 54 out of 100, where the other positions are much higher. So I think there's two really good. I mean, there's a lot of really good running back options, so we could go through them a little bit. But one that stands out is James Robinson. He's 6K on DraftKings, and last week Carlos Hyde was a surprise inactive, and Dare Ogunbowale was the backup. So that makes me even more confident that James Robinson is going to get a monster workload. He is matched up versus Tennessee this week, a team that has a fairly weak defense. So I think there's all green lights for James Robinson this week.
I like that call. I like it. The value on him is terrific. That's really what stood out when I was just looking through that on the Boom Bust tool here, was just knowing that we could lock him in at that price. That's kind of why I just went to the Devontae Adams play with the big spend, knowing that we had both him and I think Leonard Fournette at 5,200 has some nice value there as well. Was there a reason that you prefer Robinson over Fournette specifically? Is it just based on what you expect for the potential volume, where Fournette's in an offense where there's just weapons all over the field, might be spreading the ball around a little bit more?
Well, I think that the workload is just a little bit more locked up for Robinson, and also they run at a much higher rate. Jacksonville in neutral game scripts runs about 46% of the time in our projections, where Tampa Bay is only 35%. Now, Fournette has had a surprisingly big workload, so that's really why he's popping. I think he's a great play too. I mean, honestly, I'd be inclined to put both of them in the cash lineup.
Okay, interesting. So you're looking to drop Fournette into the flex spot there. That, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. As you're building cash, do you find that running backs go into your flex spot most often?
That's a good question. I don't think it makes a huge difference, but I do feel like more weeks than not, the running backs are the big values compared to wide receivers.
Yeah, and just a little, I think when we get to the value play running backs, I think, you know, you're kind of going with a little bit of rate based versus event based, right? If it's a value play and you can assume safely that he's getting 15 to 20 carries or, you know, 15 to 20 touches, you get a little bit more of a safety net for cash rather than a receiver who still needs to get targeted, still needs to catch the ball. It's a little bit more event based around the receivers. Does that kind of play into that decision as well?
I think the variance is a good thing to look at. So running backs have a little bit more steady production, and wide receivers are pretty volatile.
Yeah.
So I think that if there was a tie, I'd lean towards running back.
Excellent. And that's kind of what I was driving at there. And the reason I'm trying to stall for time was I was trying to find our correct spot to get to our game script adjusted stats, which I think is a fantastic thing that we've got on the site this year. It's under NFL Advanced Stats. Game script adjusted rush percentage, and then which obviously you can extrapolate the pass percentage, and then game script adjusted pace that we're projecting for all of these teams. So I think that's a phenomenal tool that everybody should be looking for on the site as well. So looks like we've got to move on with some of our picks here. So I'm just going to steal that one from you and then lob the ball back over to you. Actually, let's just plug Leonard Fournette into our flex spot there, Tyler, and I'm going to lob it back over to Alex for the next pick.
All right, so we gotta get a wide receiver or tight end at this point. I usually save for defense for later. Tight ends, looks like there's two options, Waller and Kittle. Both are excellent. So maybe we'll look at that once we have a better idea of what kind of salary cap we have left. Yeah, wide receiver, this one's tough. So we could go for a real value play like Curtis Samuel. We don't have much money left per position. Now, the one thing that was odd is coming back from injury, he only ran routes on 38% of plays last week. So that might not be a cash play.
You have to like that 3,000 value is kind of standing out there, though, and he's not far down our board in terms of the optimal rate.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. I think we'll want to look at the news, try to figure out why he didn't play as much last week. It does seem like it could be just because he's coming back from a multi-week absence, but
Yeah.
I want a little bit more confidence in cash. So let's see. We got Shepard, but I think he's on the injury report as well. So there's there's a lot of I guess maybe we could go with Amari Cooper. Uh he and CD Lamb look like really good options, and they're in the mid range. So we'll see how that works out with the rest of our lineup.
I like that. Yeah, not a shockingly high price at 6,100 for Cooper, 6,200 for CeeDee Lamb. Guys that are, you know, a 1A in that offense as far as I'm concerned. So I like that pick. The other guy I had my eye on kind of in that range if we were looking to pay a little bit less was Antonio Brown for 5,200. Similar kind of optimal lineup percentage for those two guys. It's another guy in that Tampa Bay offense, similar situation where there's other targets, and he certainly might not see the volume. He certainly might not get his number called in the red zone. But I think just for price, he was a little bit interesting there, saving a little bit of money by comparison. You're saving $900 if you go down from Cooper to Brown, but you are sacrificing a little bit of our optimal lineup share there. So yeah, let's lock Cooper in. I think it at least makes for an interesting discussion. See what we can do with this money spend.
I got a good value play here, so I think that'll save our lineup.
What do you got?
Ricky Seals-Jones. Logan Thomas is on the IR, and last week Ricky Seals-Jones was out there running routes on 83% of snaps. He's been known as a good pass catching tight end. I think that's really only what he does well. So he's the min price. That just seems like a good cash play.
There we go. I like that a lot. And that gives us, so we've got $4,300 across positions. We need a QB, we need a wideout, and we need a defense. I think it makes sense to probably look for where we're getting some value at defense so we can just take that off the board with a low price play and then see what we've got to spend across. And then I think the way I would do this, I think, is probably put a cheap defense in there, see which quarterback I can get to, and then see what wide receivers that leaves me money for. Is that kind of how you would approach this with 3 spots left?
Definitely.
Okay. So, geez, what do we like on defense? $2,400. No, not against the Bucks. Why not against the Vikings?
So I think
does the Redskins defense make sense? The football team defense, rather, 2,300 against the Saints.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. I think Saints aren't bad, but Jameis is quite turnover prone I think he's been more turnover prone in past seasons than this one, but definitely not a team I'm particularly worried about right now.
Yeah, he's a guy we've seen lead the league in receptions in years past. And I'm just thinking with that front seven that Washington has, maybe they lock up Kamara a little bit, make him throw the ball a little bit more, and they're the cheapest defense on the board. So I think that kind of makes sense for cash here. So I'm going to go that route. So we're going double football team picks with our last two with Seals-Jones and then the Washington football team defense. Leaves us 5,350 across 2 spots with a QB and a wideout to go. So I think we bought back at least into the low range of QB salary. So what are you thinking there?
Nice. The low end, we could go with Mac Jones. New England is matched up versus, let's see. They're up against Houston this week. So that's a really good matchup. And the rate that New England's been throwing the ball this year has been like a 180 flip from last year. So this year so far, New England's thrown the ball 70% of the time in game script or neutral game scripts, which is the highest in the league. So Mac Jones seems like a pretty consistent option.
Not bad, yeah. For 5,300, that's a solid pick there. I like that, and that leaves us a little bit of money to spend at our wideout spot. If let me just plug him in there. Jumps in there. So that leaves us. Why can't he? For some reason, he's not letting me click on him here. There we go. So that leaves us $5,400 to spend at our last wideout spot, which leaves a good amount of capable wide receivers on the board. I mean, you can get to any of the Cincinnati wide receivers if you wanted. You can get Brandon Cooks with all his target shares in that terrible Texas offense. A couple intriguing guys in A.J. Brown, Julio Jones available at that. Oh no! Why are they?
I think
Julio and AJ are too expensive. They're still lit up here though.
We still got your guy Antonio Brown on the board, so
that's
that That would leave 200 on the board. That's definitely
I like that.
someone that stands out.
Yeah, leaving 200 on the table. I like that spot a lot. If you had gone a different direction at quarterback, let's say you were looking at the boom bust tool and you saw, hey, Daniel Jones from the terrible New York Giants, only 6,000, ranked third in terms of our optimal lineup appearance rate this week. If you'd gone to Daniel Jones at the QB spot, bought a little bit more optimal for a little bit more salary, is there a receiver that's a little bit lower priced that you would turn to in that situation?
That's the tricky part is I don't see a ton in the 4 to 5K range. We'd have to go down to like Chenault or Waddle, I think. Those are high 4Ks. I just don't see very much that we can work with.
Yeah, a couple guys as I'm scrolling down, I'm down on near the bottom of the page, and this time I'm actually looking at the salary, not just who's lit up. It looks like you could get Sammy Watkins if you wanted him. It looks like you could get either of the secondary Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman from the Chiefs offense if you wanted them. You could get Cole Beasley here, 4,700. That's kind of interesting to me, just based on volume and everything. I'm not looking at the optimal rate or anything, but I think
isn't Buffalo primetime this week?
Oh, are they? You're right. Yeah, that's right. And that other game is at the bottom. See, I told you guys I wasn't deep into this. I didn't realize I didn't have the main slate only selected.
I was thinking about that because man, Buffalo, like Kansas City seems to be on the primetime slate every single week, and that's like an awesome matchup. It would have been really cool on the main slate.
Yeah, this would have been a fun game to have there. It'll be fun for Showdown on Sunday night though. All right, so definitely. I think that Mac Jones build was probably our solid cash build there. So should we flip over and jump into a tournament build here?
Yeah, let's do a FanDuel GPP, I think.
Cool. I like it. Let's do that. This probably makes sense to do a quick little spot for our sponsors here, though. So let me jump back to that real quick. And let me find one that I can actually read. Bear with me, guys. Was not thinking I'd be.
I got it, man.
This morning. You got it? All right. Tell us about Jock Market, Alex.
Yeah, Jock Market. They're like, if you couldn't tell from the name, it's the stock market for athletes. It's pretty cool where you like get to participate in the IPO, and based on the performance, you get paid out at the end of the night. So it's like a whole different spin on fantasy, and they have some new features like short selling. So you can kind of like buy and sell players. You can use the promo code Awesemo for $50 bonus on your first deposit. And this one's app only, so make sure to hit up the app store to download Jock Market.
There you go. And it looks like they've got a first market guarantee. If a new user doesn't profit their first NFL cash market, then they're refunded up to $100. That's pretty spectacular. If you're a new user, if you've never played on Jock Market, download the app. It's on any app store that you want. They've got markets for NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, PGA. Like Alex said, you use the pregame IPO. You pick your players. You can buy, sell, hold them during the game. I keep saying if you can buy and sell cartoon JPEGs for profit, you guys can probably figure this out as well. So jump in there. Jock Market, big sponsor. Thank you to Jock Market for sponsoring the show. And let's jump into a FanDuel. Let me actually select the correct slate here this time. Main slate. There we go. Now I won't be talking about any of the evening games. All right. And I'll jump over to our different tools here for ownership and for the top stacks. So I'm just going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to take a look at our top stacks board. And I'm going to pick our quarterback off the top because that's how I like to build for tournaments because, like I said, it kind of informs a lot of my lineup build as far as who I'm correlating with my quarterback, where I'm looking for some of these other plays. So to do that, I just kind of go right to our top stacks board and I start looking at who we think is going to be the highest probability of the top stack, where the ownership is going, and where am I getting leverage. And right off the top, the Tampa Bay Bucks, the top ranked team on our FanDuel board, kind of jump out with a pretty nice leverage score, the most positively leveraged team on the board. Do you think that's a reasonable play, just going to the Bucks offense here as our stack?
Absolutely. I mean, every week they're an amazing option. They throw the ball at a really high rate and they do it effectively. Like they've been even better this year than last year. So I think you got several options to choose from, and that makes it even juicier because you're not competing with as many people that have the exact same players in the stack as you.
Yeah, I like that when you can grab a lot of shares of the stack and then just mix through a lot of different combinations within that team. And a lot of guys, you can roster similar constructions across the board while flipping between these receivers. You can use same combinations of these guys with different other teams. It opens up a lot of different constructions when you've got so many viable options within the offense. So since I went Brady there, are you kick it back over to you for the next pick? Are you immediately inclined to look into which one of these correlation plays am I going to make? Or do you want to come back to that later on when we've got a little bit better idea of what our spend looks like and then find which one of these guys fits into our salary?
Yeah, I think focusing on the stack first makes sense. There's a lot of like equally appealing options. It does look like Antonio Brown's more expensive on FanDuel, so he'd be my third. Evans and Godwin being 1 and 2. And then the tight ends, Howard and Brait. Gronkowski's doubtful this week, but those prices seem a little bit on the high end. So I'd probably pick either two of those receivers, wide receivers, or maybe Fournette plus one wide receiver.
Okay, so you want to go the two-man stack out of this offense. I like that. Okay, so do you have a preference which one of those you want to go to lock in for a pick here?
Let's say Chris Godwin. He's the number one guy, and I mean, there's not much differentiating Godwin and Evans, but Evans has been getting the more target share this year, but Godwin, when he does get targeted, is insanely efficient. So it's always a challenge to pick between those two guys. I don't think you can really go wrong.
Yeah, it almost comes down to just who's getting in the end zone with a lot of these guys, and that becomes a bit of a crapshoot based on game script and all of these things. Looking at the lineup construction, then, if we're expecting the Bucs to go out and score a boatload of points and be the most relevant stack on the board, I think it certainly makes sense to grab a run back from the other team. And if I'm going to do that, I think I want to save a little bit of money, but I don't necessarily want to go to like an Albert Wilson in that offense as a wide receiver. I don't love the salaries. They're not overly expensive, but I don't love the salary on a guy who's very, very hit and miss like Devontae Parker. And I think Jalen Waddle hasn't really proven it yet in terms of the 5,400. So I think a guy who gets a ton of volume and it fills an easy spot for us is Mike Gesicki at the tight end spot. Use the tight end to grab a bunch of passing volume here as a run back play. And now we've got a Brady, Godwin, Gesicki, and we can go back for a second play from the Bucs side. And we've kind of locked in a lot of correlation within this game. Do you think that makes sense as a tournament play here?
Yeah, definitely. I think Tampa isn't necessarily a team that you need to run back because they pass at a really high rate, but it's certainly always a good option. So Gesicki being a tight end, like that does seem like an easy fill in our lineup.
All right, so I'll make that my click, and then do you want to grab? You'd mentioned Fournette 6,400. Do you want to grab him here? And I'll let you have another pick since you'd already mentioned him, and we can move on from the Tampa stack.
Sure. Yeah, Fournette, he's been getting most of the routes. Bernard was inactive last week, so this one might come down to if Bernard is active or inactive this week. But regardless, Fournette will be a solid play.
All right, cool. So we've got our plays from this game. We've got Brady, Fournette, Godwin, and Mike Gesicki as the run back. So that leaves us 6,400 a piece to spread across a running back, two wideouts, a flex spot, and a defense. Where do you want to go?
So I think we picked a pretty chalky stack. So now we need some plays that will mix it up. So this is where I'm going to sort the boom bust tool by leverage. And actually, Antonio Brown is one of the top plays. Fournette's one of the top plays in leverage. So we already have that locked up. But one that stands out is AJ Brown. Henry is going to be so popular this week that if Tennessee gets in a hole, maybe AJ Brown sneaks into the optimal.
I like that. So just to rewind real quick, we had gone Godwin with that Tampa receiver pick. Do you want to switch that up to Antonio Brown, save a few bucks, gain some leverage?
I think either one's fine. Like I'm happy with Godwin.
All right, so let's see where we go with the Godwin Brown build then.
Awesome.
All right, so Antonio Brown, not Amon-Ra, or AJ Brown rather. All right, so 62.75 left to spend after plugging AJ in there. $6,900. That's a pretty good price. When you get AJ Brown at 6,900 and Julio Jones at 6,800 in that offense as well, compared to Godwin at 76, that's a pretty good buy for AJ Brown. Actually, I like that a lot.
Nice.
All right, I'm going to take a peek again back toward that leverage column, and I think I'm looking for a flex play here, and I'm considering a running back. I just want to see if there's anybody who really sneaks up on us from the running back in terms of leverage. It doesn't really look like it, though. A lot of wide out plays coming up with leverage. Boy, running back is fairly scarce in terms of the positive leverage plays here.
I think it's because like the chalk is really good this week.
Makes sense. So let me all right, let me resort it here and I'll go by the optimal rate. Anybody, instead of making everybody, wait for me finding anybody, is there anybody who kind of jumps out at you as a potential flex play here that you want to get to?
Well, Damian Williams, he does hit that leverage score. He has 12% chance in the optimal lineup and 10% ownership in our latest runs. So with David Montgomery out, I'm expecting most of the work to go to him, and that's a pretty good situation.
I like that. 6,500 plugs right into our salary. $6,200 left to spend on a flex, a wideout, and a defense. I was saying flex, but I forgot we had that extra running back spot to fill as well. So that's where Harris just went. Oh shoot, did I say I clicked the wrong Damian? Sorry. Williams, 5,800 for Williams. So 64.33 left to spend across a wide receiver, a flex, and a defense. Is this a spot where, kind of like what I said with the cash, at a certain point, I always like to just, all right, this is a lineup where I think we're spending a decent amount of money. We've gotten somewhat chalky with our stack that we picked, like you said. Do you want to try and find a defense here to slot in, and then we can see what we've got to spend across our wide receiver and our flex?
Yeah, let's do it. I think with defense, since we did go a little bit chalky, maybe we want to get a little contrarian with this one. All right, so it's funny. The Dolphins defense is actually one of the contrary plays, but another one is the Jaguars. They're going up against Houston this week. Sorry, they're going up against Tennessee. My bad. So actually, never mind, because that goes against our AJ Brown play. Yeah. So the other options, the Cardinals, they're going up against Jimmy G. San Francisco's a good team, but Jimmy G, he's supposed to be banged up. It's not clear if he's starting or Trey Lance, but regardless, I think the interception possibility is going to be good.
All right. So that was a little spendier than I wanted to get, but it actually doesn't look like it hurts us at all. 7,300 left to spend is plenty. So yeah, I like that. So cards D locked in there. 7,300 left to spend across a wideout and a flex play. Just since I was on the Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins is only 75 in this spot, and we need a wide receiver. He's getting a little bit of ownership, 8.1% ownership play. It's just a star name that kind of at price stood out to me since I was on that page. I'm not sure where we've got him in terms of the leverage board. I imagine at that kind of leverage, let's say he's that kind of ownership, he's a slightly positive leverage play. There's probably somebody that we could go to that's better than that in terms of a tournament pick, though, here. So just let's look at what the wide receiver board looks like. What do you think about for 6,000 Chase Claypool here, getting a decent amount of positive leverage? That Pittsburgh passing attack has been struggling. I think Ben should have retired probably 2 years ago, last year. But what do you think of Claypool here?
I like Claypool a lot. I mean, he was out last week, but assuming he's back this week, he's been targeted on 24% of his routes. And the last game he played, he was out there 90% of the time. That was maybe a career best. So I think Claypool is a very good option.
There we go. All right, close this lineup out with a flex pick.
We got 8,600. That's quite a bit. So one of the nice things with the lineup builder is we can just kind of slot someone in and tweak from there. But Alvin Kamara is someone that I feel like hasn't been as good this year, but he's getting a lot of volume. Tony Jones is out, so I think that could be a pretty good option.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I'm always happy to go to a star player like that. 8,600. That gives us the full spend. Any thought toward? All right, maybe we got a little chalky going to Brady there. Any thought towards? Hey, maybe we make a pivot here, leave like $200 on the table, and you could get like a, let's say, Aaron Jones for 84. Leave 200 on the table in that spot. Does that appeal to you at all in tournaments? Just for the
Well,
idea of maybe people are looking to spend all their money.
what I'm looking at here, in a large slate, leaving money on the table is not a big factor for me, but I'm looking really at the feedback from this lineup builder, and it's saying our lineup's actually pretty contrarian, with a 90% contrarian rating. So combined with our value rating being good, I think that we have a good lineup right here.
Nice. I like it. So it looks like we've got about 5 minutes left to before we get out. So I think I talked too much and overran us on a couple of these lineups. So instead of building out a DK lineup, do you want to talk through some of your favorite tournament plays for the DK slate? Maybe start with who your favorite stacks are for the DK slate, and give the people a little something.
Let's do a rapid fire lineup here. So,
all right, we can do it.
One of the stacks I'm looking at on DK, I think everyone's going to spend up at running back. So I really like going to Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams. I feel like we have Rodgers at 4% ownership, and we know the potential there. So Cincinnati being a pretty weak team defensively, I think that has a ton of potential.
Okay, I like that as a starting point. If I took a run back who is a running back with Joe Mixon on the board there on the other side of that one, think that makes sense for a tournament, or is he a little bit 12-ish% ownership, getting a little bit popular there? We could go to one of the receivers for a cheap price. Tyler Boyd stands out 5,300, only 8.7% ownership. Do you prefer the receiver there, or are you willing to go to a running back as a run back player?
So this being Friday, we don't really know if Mixon will play or not. So I don't like penciling in the guys that are questionable. So I think going to a wide receiver, either one's probably fine, but we might as well pencil that in for now.
Okay, so let's go with Boyd, a little bit less owned than T. Higgins, a little bit more salary at 5,300. All right, so we've got our guys there. Do you want to go back to the Packers for a second play here, or are you going to move on to another team?
That it's not a huge priority because Devontae Adams makes up such a huge part of that offense. So it'd really come down to if there's anyone else that I want to roster, and there's not. So a guy like Alan Lazard is an interesting contrarian dart with MVS out, but he's quite expensive. So I don't think he's going to be contrarian in a Packers stack either. So I would probably just leave it as we have it.
Okay, I like that. So what's your next pick then? We've got a couple pair of running backs, a wide out, a tight end, a flex, and a defense to fill.
All right. So our lineup is kind of contrarian so far, so I don't mind taking a little bit of a chalk pick. As I mentioned, I think spending up at wide receiver is pretty intriguing this week. So we could go to DJ Moore again, but we had him in the last lineup, so maybe Justin Jefferson. That might be too expensive, but let's see how it looks.
Yes, I mean, I think we can. Well, putting Justin Jefferson in leaves us 4,300 to spend across a few positions here with two running backs, a tight end, a flex, and a D to fill. So maybe we want to jump to defense, plug in a D here, and see what we can do.
That's it.
All right. Want to make let's go back to, since I know it off the top of my head, $2,300 Washington defense going up against the Saints. Our cash defense. Let's just plug them in. Take the discounted defense, buys us to 4,850 to spend. Two running backs, a flex, and a tight end. Where you want to go?
I think that let's pick a running back here. So there are a ton of good options this week. If we're going cheap, I think that James Robinson again is a good play.
I have to start typing first names into this. You guys came up when I just typed Robinson. There he is. Good old James. All right, 44.66 left to go here. We've got, let's see, optimal lineup rate.
I think
yeah, go ahead.
Let's go for a budget play. So I'm just gonna scroll down the list until I find someone that's in the 3Ks. Evan Ingram, a tight end, 3,200. So Uh, Giants are going up against Dallas. That seems like a great spot for tight end.
I like that. 3,200, not a big spend there. That makes that easy. So now we've got we've clawed our way up to 5,100. Guy that I was looking at as you were talking that through, and I was doing the same thing, kind of scrolling down for 3,000 salary. A guy, maybe he's a bit more of a tournament play. We mentioned him during the cash build, but for only 3,000, you could lock Curtis Samuel into here. You've got the question mark about what his volume is going to look like. Like you said, 30 some odd percent of the snaps coming back from injury last week. But he is a very dynamic player, a guy who's very skilled, can take snaps behind the line of scrimmage, can take snaps at the wideout. So I think maybe for tournament play, you're getting him at positive leverage. You're not getting any kind of spend there. So maybe we pop Curtis Samuel into this one as a tournament play, and that leaves us a decent amount since we went discount. That leaves us 7,200 to spend on our last running back.
That's perfect. So I think the two options here are Najee Harris, who has a really great workload, and Saquon Barkley. We did just pick a Giants player, so maybe that leans more to Najee Harris, but let's see how the feedback looks once we put those guys in.
Yeah, so I just plugged in Najee. It looks like we're less than 10% contrarian, more than 90% value.
Let's try switching Najee Harris for Saquon Barkley then.
And we're okay with leaving Evan Engram and Saquon Barkley both in here?
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's not something like that is a positive.
That actually takes us 100 over.
Oh, shoot. Dang. My math skills, I need to... I think I was looking at Ezekiel Elliott and saying Saquon Barkley. My bad. I'm just going to go with that.
So, hey, let's say tight end is a little bit of a crapshoot on a lot of these. We're kind of touchdown hunting unless we're playing Travis Kelce or someone like that. So if we want to take it from that perspective, put Saquon in, take Evan Engram out. That leaves us 3,100. We could get to either of the Indianapolis receivers. We could get to a David Njoku kind of dart throw type of a play. We could get our guy Ricky Seals-Jones back 2,500. We've got directions to go at the tight end spot. I think I'd be more inclined to probably play Saquon there and take Evan Engram out if that was the construction that we wanted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that works for me.
OJ Howard, another interesting one that can slot into that salary at only 2,900 in that Tampa passing attack.
Nice.
You got the options to move around there.
Looks like Cole Kmet is another good option at tight end. He's out there more than OJ Howard, so I feel a little bit more confident in him.
Okay, I like that one. What about Ferkser from the Tennessee at exactly 3,100?
Oh, we have 3,100. Yeah, I think Ferkser is a good play for sure.
Okay. All right, so we just gave people like 5 or 6 different versions of this. I love it.
Nice,
good stuff. All right, guys, I think that takes us to the end of the lineup builder show. I'm relatively sure that this is the time we're supposed to punch out. So, Alex, this was a lot of fun to jump into with you. I think we built the people some good lineups here. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Jock Market for sponsoring it. Hit the like and the subscribe down there, guys, and stick around for what I assume is a whole block of programming the rest of the day.